This is a new style of die-struck marquee crown that is very popular today. It has a nice thin look to the end prongs, but provides a V-tip on the points. When selecting a marquee crown, always choose one that is slightly longer than your stone. Trying to squeeze a stone into a crown that is a little small is one of the major causes of stone breakage. The first thing you need to do on this type of crown is drill a hole in the bottom for the cullet. You do not want the cullet to hit any metal because it will chip easily while setting. Use a straight-sided setting burr to cut the seat in the side prongs. You cut the seat in this type of crown very much like you would for a round stone. Use a burr the same size as the width of the stone and just cut straight down into the prong. Next, cut the seat in the V-tip prongs. Begin with a small heart burr and cut right at the level of the girdle of the stone. This line is where we will start our work. It's where we want the girdle to set, and all of our work in cutting the seat will be based on that line, so you need to be very accurate in cutting it. Next, turn the heart burr sideways and cut a line down the prong for the keel of the stone. That is the facet line that runs from the very point of the stone down to the cullet. If any of the side prongs are in your way, go ahead and bend them a little to get them out of your way. You can always straighten them when you set the stone. You want to have easy access to this V-tip so you can make a nice clean cut. Next, take a small bud burr and use the point to cut into the crown to create the divot for the point. On a die-struck crown, the metal is fairly thin, so you have to be real careful not to cut too deep. You need to cut deep enough so that there is no metal touching the point of the stone, but not so deep that you will cut through the prong. Next, use a bristle brush to clean up the mounting so that it's polished on the inside before you set the stone. Next, set the stone down into the seat to begin to set it. We begin with setting the side prongs, so at this point the stone needs to fit in the seat on the side prongs but not be in contact with the V-tips. We are only setting the stone with the side prongs at this time. This is one reason why a crown that is slightly larger than the stone is nice to have, because then the V-tips don't touch the stone. Set the side prong similar to a round stone. Just work back and forth, pulling each prong down a little bit at a time until the stone is set securely in the crown. In this type of setting, the 4 prongs should hold the stone securely. The V-tips are just to protect the points. Keep working around the mounting, working each prong down a little bit at a time until it is down tight on the stone and the stone is secure. Next, using a file with a safety edge, file the prongs to clean them up. File all the prongs to the same size and the same shape. Round the prongs off and file the height down on any prongs that are taller than the others. Next, use a cup burr to go over the tips of the prongs to round them off and to make them uniform in size. The last step for the side prongs is to go back to our file and blend the sides of the prongs into the tips that we created with the cup burr. The final step in setting the stone is to bring the V-tip prongs down over the stone and tight against the tip of the stone. Since they were out away from the stone, the first thing we need to do is bring them in until the seat touches the stone. Just work the prongs back and forth until they are in, and then use a file to trim the prongs down. They may be a little tall or too heavy to bend over. Then, taking a pair of chain nose pliers, place the tips of the pliers on the outside edge of the V-tip. Be certain the pliers are above the girdle of the stone, and then squeeze together to burnish the metal down over the tip of the marquee. Burnish the tips down on both ends of the stone with the jaws of the plier. Then file the prongs to shape. File an angle on the side of the V-tips and trim them to length. Next, use a flat graver to clean up the inside bevel of the tips. You want a nice even bevel starting at the top of the V-tip prong and going down to the crown of the stone. Also trim off any flange of metal that is left from our file when we filed the V-tip prongs to shape. Next, use a rubber pumice wheel, or here we're using a brown silicone wheel, to remove all of the file marks from the outside of all of the prongs, both the V-tips and the side prongs. Then, using a small hard felt wheel, polish the angle of the V-tips. These should be nice clean angles, and so we use a hard felt wheel to polish them. Then use a bristle brush to polish down in between the prongs, and then polish the mounting on the buff wheel and clean in the ultrasonic. And the ring is finished, ready to be delivered to your customer.